In today's second reading, James is writing to a Christian community, and he asks this question: where do the wars and where do the conflicts among you come from? It's a good question. Where do the wars and the conflicts among you come from? The wars and conflicts in our families, in our community, in our church, in the world, in our nation. Where do these wars and conflicts come from? Also within ourselves. Because we can think that everyone has a good intention. It seems like people can rationally discuss and come to a peaceful conclusion. Instead, we see wars and conflicts. How do we explain also that a man comes, lives among us, does nothing wrong, he heals, he helps, and he's put to an unjust, violent death? We can say that that's just an aberration, it was a fluke. Or we can say in this something profound is being revealed about the heart of the world, reality, and mankind. All of these readings speak about this mystery of iniquity. And so, to understand reality, the world, and ourselves, we have to take into consideration, we have to examine this theme of the mystery of evil. The first reading speaks exactly about someone through whom evil is working. It says that the wicked say, "Let us beset the just one, because he is obnoxious to us." And so the just one, when he appears, it says, he sets himself against our doings, reproaches us for transgressions of the law, and charges us with violations of our training. And so, if I'm doing wrong, somehow I know it's wrong, but I prefer that it remains hidden, that it remains secret, that it remains obscure. And so it's bothering to me if someone is showing out, pointing out that I'm going the wrong way. And so something in me wants to destroy the just one. And so the thinking is perverted, it's twisted, it's wrong. It doesn't make sense. It says, let's see whether his words be true. Let us find out what will happen to him. For if the just one be the Son of God, God will defend him and deliver him from the hand of his foes. He speaks about God, but in the end he doesn't really believe in God. With revilement and torture, let us put the just one to the test, so that we may have proof of his gentleness and try his patience. Let us condemn him to a shameful death, for according to his own words, God will take care of him. If God is with him, then we can torture him. We can put him to a death and see if he is patient. See how he responds. See if God comes to his help. And so it's, as I mentioned, twisted thinking. But whenever we desire evil for another one, whenever we desire harm to someone else, we're thinking wrongly. We're thinking with this twisted, perverted mentality. And we know the consequences. We know the fruits. St. James says, where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there is disorder and every foul practice. And so the consequence of this evil is disorder, foul practice. Jealousy. Jealousy is being jealous of someone else's gifts instead of being happy for them. Selfish ambition, focused on myself, concerned about myself. Selfishness, ambition, this desire to conquer. And so he continues, where do the wars and where do the conflicts among you come from? Is it not from your passions that make war within your members? You covet but do not possess. He's saying that the wars come from the heart, that the root of the problem is that I have these passions, I have these drives, I have these desires within me that I want to grasp, I want to conquer, I want to obtain, and I can't. You kill and envy, but you cannot obtain. You fight and wage war. And so it's from this desire within me to conquer, to be superior. You do not possess because you do not ask. So you don't ask God. You ask, but you do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. And so my prayer can be exactly this, asking God to fulfill my passions, my desires, my drives, which is exactly the root of the problem. And we see that even among the apostles, they have been discussing among themselves on the way who was the greatest. And so even with them is this selfish ambition. Even with them is this drive to conquer. And so it's helpful to see, to examine, to look at the workings, the consequences, the root of evil. And then on the other side, James says, but the wisdom from above. So there's a different type of wisdom. There's a different way of thinking, a different way of understanding, a different way of living, a different way of acting that comes from above, that comes from heaven. The wisdom from above is first of all pure. It's exactly the contrary. Exactly the contrary. Instead of being pure, instead of being impure, it's something pure. It's peaceable. Instead of giving fruits of conflicts and wars, it's peaceable. It brings peace, resolution, gentle. It's not rough, not harsh. It's gentle. It's compliant, full of mercy. Full of mercy. Mercy for the other. Forgiveness. Good fruits without inconstancy or insincerity. There's no duplicity. There's no lying. There's no falseness. It's sincere. And the fruits of righteousness is sown in peace for those who cultivate peace. So this wisdom that comes from heaven, this wisdom that comes from above, we see embodied in Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is this other way. Jesus Christ is this way of peace. And he explains it to his disciples. He sits them down, called the 12, and said to them, if anyone wishes to be first, he shall be the last of all. If anyone wishes to be first, he shall be the last of all, and the servant of all. Instead of this desiring to be first and conquer, to be the last, to take the last place, to be a servant, to help the other, to serve the other, to live for the good of the other. It's another way of thinking, another way of acting, another way of living. And he gives the example of a child who is abandoned to the will of God, a child who trusts in the goodness of his Father. Instead of seeking to be first, seeking to be God, allows God to be God and to work through him. And so Jesus saw the workings of the evil one. And when the just one appears, we can see evil for what it is. We can see it in all its ugliness. And so what we hear in the first reading comes to fulfillment in Jesus Christ. And so he was reviled, he was tortured. And we can see a proof of his gentleness. We can see the proof of his patience. But also that God did take care of him. And what we see in the passion, in the death of Jesus Christ, is this conflict between these two realities, these two forces, these two spirits. On the one hand, a spirit of evil, of selfish ambition, of pride, of envy, of jealousy. We see this attacking Jesus Christ, who is goodness itself, who is this new way of wisdom, who is this servant, who is this who takes the last place. And so, in this battle, we can see both sides clearly. We can see the fruits of both sides clearly. We can see them for what they are. And in this battle, it says, the Son of Man is to be handed over to men, and they will kill him. And so Jesus Christ saw what was coming. He saw the inevitable of this battle. But he says, and 3 days after his death, the Son of Man will rise. And so Jesus rises victorious. Jesus Christ conquers evil. Jesus Christ responds with love. And this is the good news, that this is what's been resurrected. This is what's eternal. This is the one that wins the day. And so each of us then are invited to decide, with which force do I want to cooperate? With which spirit do I want to enter into my life? The spirit of evil, of ambition, of pride, of selfishness, or the contrary, a spirit of humility, a spirit of service, a spirit of love, a spirit of peace. But the good news is it's the spirit of goodness, of love, of mercy that does conquer, that does defeat, that does win, that is eternal, that wins the day. And so we are invited to allow Jesus Christ, who is here, who is present, who is resurrected, who is offering us his spirit. He's offering us his way of life. He's offering us his very self so that he can dwell inside of us, so that he can work through us, so that also the evil, the mystery of evil can be defeated, can be conquered in us. Because Jesus Christ, who conquers, is dwelling and living inside of us. So let us pass to the Eucharist and receive this Spirit and give him space so that he can again work in us and defeat this mystery of evil.
In her